that brotherhood of Islam that's propping you up and helping you maintain the remembrance. It's really hard. I mean, you can't do it alone, really.
Right, and this is a terrible place to be the lone sheep.
Yeah, that's very true.
But let's go back to your story about how you came to Islam. So you had finished reading the autobiography of Malcolm X.
So after high school, I really was interested in a spiritual path. I really wanted to figure out what's life all about. So I ended up going to a Buddhist school in the Rocky Mountains, and you know, there's monks there and things like this, and you know, different styles of meditation and things like this that we would learn, and I learned about Buddhism and stuff like that. And there are things of Buddhism that are very beautiful and that I liked a lot. I mean, one of, you know, remembrance of death and that this life is only temporary is one of them. But overall, I was kind of turned off, and I felt that a lot of these students there weren't really serious about living spiritual lives. And so after, you know, less than a year, after about a semester, I said, you know, this isn't for me. And so I came back here to Seattle, and I continued my studies at community college, just in general studies. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. But, you know, eventually I just started studying about Islam, and some friends of mine started studying about Islam, and it wasn't really that I met Muslims. It wasn't really that you know, because I didn't know very many Muslims personally as friends, but I just started studying about Islam, and I was amazed that, you know, this is what I already believe, the life of Jesus. So in Catholic school I learned about Jesus, but it always, peace be upon him, but I always felt that Jesus, or Isa bin Maryam, truly came with a message from God, but that men had distorted this message. I mean, it became very clear to me as I studied the history of Christianity and things like that, that there were things in here that I just didn't feel were actually from the teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him. And when I started studying about Islam, this is what Muslims believe. You know, I didn't know that many. I think many Muslims would be surprised to know that probably most Christians don't know that Muslims believe in Jesus, and they believe. And I started studying one God, only one God, and it's the creator of everything. I always believed in that. I never in my life doubted that there was a creator, that there was a supreme being, and Muhammad is the messenger of God, peace be upon him. This wasn't hard for me to believe. And in fact, the inclusiveness, that there were many prophets. In Islam, we accept all the prophets, peace be upon them all. We believe in them. There are many prophets that we don't know about. Was the Buddha prophet, was Lao Tzu, the creator of Taoism, a prophet? We don't know as Muslims. Maybe, you know, possibly, in that, you know, just like Jesus, there were other things that were allowed to enter into the message or the religion. And the inclusiveness really spoke to me. And I had no problem you know, with believing that Muhammad was the messenger of God, peace be upon him. And I basically, you know, was going through some hardships in my life. Also, I had been, you know, kind of involved in the average American lifestyle of, you know, a lot of partying, a lot of unhealthy behaviors as far as drugs and alcohol and things like that.
Akhi, now you're telling me about some of the hardships you faced while growing up before you became Muslim. Can you just elaborate a bit, because maybe your story is similar to some other people's story?
So I was, you know, involved in a lot of drugs and alcohol at that time in my life. I was around 19 years old, and, you know, a lot of parties and stuff like that. And I basically became unsatisfied with that, and I said, you know, I want to live a spiritual life. I want to live a life with a purpose. But part of my lifestyle is contradictory to that. And you know, it was at that moment that, you know, I was in true despair. I felt like I was at true rock bottom, and that was the first time that I really prayed a sincere prayer. I felt like I didn't know how, you know, to pray exactly. but I just fell to my knees and prayed to God in sincerity, really from the bottom of my heart, knowing at that moment that there was no one else that I could turn to. And I said, you know, guide me, you know, to the path that you choose for me, the righteous path, the true, straightest path. And though, because truly I didn't see a way out of that lifestyle that I was so embedded in. And you know, it didn't happen at that moment. I didn't see it a complete change or anything like that right then. But a lot of things started changing in my life, and people started switching around. The friends that I was with, I drifted away from them and things like that. And about 6 months later, I was guided to Islam. And in that 6 months, I started to read more about Islam. Started to read about the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And I had a girlfriend at the time, actually, and she was also reading about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and about Islam. And you know, it was kind of funny. She was like, I want to go to the mosque on this Friday, and I want to take my shahada and become a Muslim.
This is before you or after you?
This is before me, yeah, right? I still hadn't become Muslim. I was still studying. We were both studying together. And I was like, this was, you know, a few days before Friday, a few days before Jummah. And so I said, well, okay, I support that. I'm still studying, though. I'm not ready yet. And, you know, I kept studying, and a few days would pass, and it was Friday. And she was getting ready, and she was putting on her hijab and everything. SubhanAllah. And, you know, I had done some thinking the night before, a lot of thinking to myself. And I said, you know, I believe this. There is something that's telling me, no, just wait for a while. You know, just study a little bit more. You know, but I said, you know, a mathematician doesn't just say, well, you know, I'm not going to be a mathematician because I don't know everything about math. You know, 2 + 2 = 4. If you know that's the truth and you know the principles are there, you know, you'll learn when you get into it.
Right.
So that's kind of how it was. And I said, you know, I'm going with you. And so we went to the masjid that day, and after Jummah, that was my first time in a masjid in my life. And after Jummah, the Imam said there's a brother and a sister who would like to enter Islam. And so I got up in front of the Imam, and, you know, surprisingly, there's hundreds of people there, but I didn't feel nervous at all for some reason. Usually I'm very nervous, you know, speaking in front of people, but it's like I didn't feel nervous at all at that moment. And so I took the shahada, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, and then he translated it into English. And I had read about it, so I knew what I was saying. And that was that. And that was the beginning. And it was.
And how did you feel at that moment, at that time?
I felt amazing, you know. I mean, really, SubhanAllah, what happened is every single brother in the mosque lined up to give me a hug. And I had never felt that much love in my life, from even friends and family, let alone perfect strangers. And they, you know, welcome to the family, things like this. So I really felt, you know, this is unreal, you know. And I think, you know, everyone is really starving for that true brotherhood, you know, from a higher level, that brotherhood and sisterhood that really has no ulterior motives or personal desire. It really is for the sake of God and God alone.
Right.
And so it's actually kind of a funny story. As we were walking away from the mosque, a brother came up to me and said, you know, I met my girlfriend again, and he said, okay, you guys know now you can't be boyfriend and girlfriend. And, you know, we were living together at the time and stuff like that. So he said, you can't be doing that either. He was like, you either have to get married or you guys you can't be together. And I hadn't heard that before. So I was like, come on.